everyone. Welcome. All right. We got Mike Wilson with us today for this teardown. We're back in the new year.
Hello.
So, Mike, you're the first one this year. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate that. I'm excited.
Grateful to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. We chatted a little bit, and you were gracious enough to send a really great email for me, too. That's going to kind of structure a lot of this. So, first, when we do this, we like to get to know you a little bit and like to know where your background was and everything. So, let's learn a little bit about Mike. So tell us, just, kind of start us off. How did you decide to get into the industry? What was the genesis of that?
So I was a captive agent for a major national insurance company for 30 years, ran my own agency, had a very successful agency, had done some kind of financial planning and advising in that context, but the company didn't really like it. They didn't want us to do that.
Okay.
But I caught the bug, and it just really stuck with me. And for about 10 years, it stayed with me. Got to a point where kids were out of college, felt like it was the right time, saved money, got prepared, and decided to make the transition into an RIA, a financial advisor.
And so, how long have you been in that? How long since you took that plunge?
It's been about 2.5 years. I started my time. I'm up for the best timing in the decade of starting a financial business because I did it right before COVID hit.
Yeah.
So I'll find out if I get that award fairly soon.
I mean, you're not the first I've heard that from. So let's talk about that for a moment, because I think it breeds opportunity, though, right? You always hear that in times of like trouble and strife like that. There's opportunity. Do you think it changed the trajectory of your business a little bit and helped kind of where if you were set in your ways, that maybe you wouldn't have been able to adapt or to change or to come into a program like we have? And do you see any similarities to that journey as to what you could have been on?
Yeah, I mean, the journey that I was on before was comfortable. I mean, the money was comfortable, and it was easy. It was easy, and it just wasn't satisfying.
Yeah.
I wasn't helping people the way I knew I could help them, and quite frankly, I saw lots of people who really needed help. And I think that's true just in general of the financial population. They need help.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And I know we got a bunch watching already. So make sure you give some love to Mike here. Make sure you're introducing yourselves on the group, in the chats. We'd love to see you and hear from you. And I think, I tell Jeremiah this all the time. I've had this trouble shifting my own identity here because about 2 years ago, I kind of became a marketer when I started working with Jeremiah, right? I was an advisor, still have those licenses, but it's been really hard for me to transition that because I feel that this profession is so noble and we help so many people and there's so many people in need of it. So I justified that I help advisors who help people. And so it's been fun getting to know people like yourself. So that's great. Well, all right. So you jumped in about 2 years ago. It's been a little different, right? A little different than you saw. So at some point you became identified or known to advisors. So what was that like? How'd you find us?
So I had been trying different marketing things. Last year, I started down the path of doing seminars. Thought this is the way to cast a wider net.
Yeah.
And so doing the mailings and doing going in and doing the Social Security education kind of thing. And they were fine. I mean, the results were okay in terms of how many people showed up and things like that. But the net result for trying to build the business wasn't really happening. And honestly, I don't know where I was online, probably on LinkedIn. And there was an ad or something from Jeremiah, or maybe it was an email that said something like, hey, seminars aren't working like they used to, and it happened to hit me at the right time.
Sure.
And so I thought, all right, I'll reply to this email and see if I can get on this call. Well, the thing is that I had let that email sit for a month. And so by the time that I replied for it, there was no call to listen to the next day. And but one of the guys online reached out and hooked me up with Huguette. And we had a conversation. We started talking about it, and awesome. It took a while. Yeah. I didn't just fall onto it. I had to really try to understand what was going to happen and what the outcomes could be.
Yeah, I love. We're going to come back to this story a couple times, I think, in this conversation because I know some of your questions here. And I think you just illustrated a lot of great points with the questions you actually have for me. So we're going to talk through. And so that's great. Jack, I see you on here. Jack, I'm glad you could join us. Jack's a new member of our program too. So, all right. So you took the plunge. What was it? I'm always curious at this because we all, as advisors, we all struggle in different areas, right? We're all struggling, and we're trying to find that thing to kind of get us on over the hump that we believe in. What is it that kind of did it for you? Why'd you take that jump after, like you said, it took you some time?
It took me some time. I think I'm very skeptical by nature.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people on the internet promising lots of things. And I've talked to a lot of them. I've looked at different IMOs and FMOs and things like that. And they're like, oh, we'll get you this and we'll get you that. I had one guy say, we just need to get you on a podcast. Like, who's listening? So I'm very skeptical.
Yeah.
What made me jump was the idea that you guys will stick with me.
Sure.
Until I at least get my investment back. But if you're willing to make that commitment to me, if it's going to work to get the investment back, so that was a big step. And the other step is I went on the advisor's website. I looked at lots of the videos, and I just flat out cold called a lot of the advisors that were out there and said, do you have time to talk to me? I sent them an email or I'd call them. Do you have 10 minutes to tell me about Advisorist and Shift? And they all did. I didn't have anybody say no. And they were all gracious, and based on those conversations is what made me say, okay, I gotta give this a try.
I forgot that part of your story. I remember getting this call. Yeah, this call like every advisor we got on the testimonial page. So that's funny. Yeah, that's awesome.
But they were all great. And
well, that's really been the blessing of this program for me. Again, to know people like yourself. I mean, we got great members. It's a lot of fun. I mean, Shift Nation and our Shift members of our accelerator. Just it's great. It's a great community. We've got our own community, as you know. So. Awesome. Well, let's kind of dive into this. So you took the plunge, and man, you did. And this is the thing. Well, it's funny. You get commenting right now, and she said plunge. I guess it's a plunge, right? You take that jump. I think it says a lot to you that you did, but what you did next was great, and that was part of kind of the teaser for this chat. Is you launched very quickly into our program. So talk about your launch, kind of what it was, getting in. Getting involved and getting launched, because you did it very quickly.
Well, I decided that if I was going to do this, I was going to make it my full-time job because, I mean, let's face it, I'm doing this because I'm not overwhelmed with appointments. Mm-hmm. So the time that I would have been spending on appointments had I had them, I spent on watching the modules. I have a notebook that as I watched the modules, I took notes on every single video so I could go back if I needed to. And I just went through the modules and just did what you guys said to do. And I just made it, so, module 1 or module 2, whatever, the total elapsed time of the videos is very short. It's not, we're not talking about hours and hours and hours. It was very short. I pushed through it and I did it. And then I send Christian an email, and then I send you an email or Sky an email. Hey, what do I need now? What's next?
Yeah.
And I just kind of kept refining and kept doing it. And that's what the agents and the advisors that I talked to had said to do. They said, look, you sign up, do what they tell you to do. Don't, and I've told the people that I have worked with in this, I have no ego about this. I want someone to tell me what I need to do because you guys know. You guys know. So I just dove in and made it my full-time job.
And that's why we call this a done with you program, because that's really the magic that happens. Like, I wish we had like a magic bullet that just says, here, Mike, you do exactly this, you're going to have phenomenal success. It's just not the way it works, because there's so much nuance to you, the way you do your practice, the way you work with clients, your niche, all those pieces. But when you put them both together, some great magic happens, as we've seen. So we're going to be excited to see that in the coming months for you here. So, all right, so you did that. You got launched. Tell us how many days it took you to launch.
I didn't do the math. Jeremiah did the math, but it was 19 days. 19 days from the day that I signed up to the day that I got my first campaign out. I probably would have wanted to get my campaign out in 15 days or whatever, but there were some issues with the USP and the language and the about page and all that. But yeah, it was about 19 days.
Yeah, and so back to the launching. It's not the fastest we've ever seen, but very fast. I think the fastest is 14 days that I've seen. So you did really well. So good job. But I want to touch on, Jeremiah uses all the time progress over perfection. Mine is good, better, best. Like, I always feel like you can have something good, it can be better, but then there's like the best, right? And I think anytime you do this, we'll all agree, and let you know. I know you're humble about this and looking for coaching, so we're going to do some coaching today and pick apart, nitpick a little bit. So there's always a way to be better, but you have it out there. You already have a campaign. Yeah. We're going to look at your campaign. We're going to see what it's doing. I know you have some concerns there. We're going to talk through that. So everyone watching, gear up because we're going to have some fun here. Mike was great and sent me some of his concerns. And the reason we want to have him on here is a couple things. Number one, just to show you, I got Jack here on commitment. That's really what this is all about, that commitment to it. You made it your job to do it. We're going to get into that because anytime you commit to some kind of marketing effort like this, it takes time, no matter what. And you want it to. It should take time for a lot of reasons we're going to chat about. So I'm just excited for all your questions. I think it's really good. I know I've got a ton of feedback. I told you before this. I know I added a little pressure to you, but from all the teardowns we've done, there's been more chatter and comments and people excited for this than I've seen in any of the previous ones for some reason. I think everyone's really geared up for the new year, and we're going to touch on a lot of the things here that they're going to need for the new year. So let's jump in. So you took the plunge. You launched in 19 days. And now you're kind of now what do I do, right? Things are going, and you're kind of in that helpless state of, all right, I did it, but I want things to start happening, but it takes a little time and all this stuff. So you're at the very beginning of let's pull it up right now. I want to look at your campaign right now. So let me pull that up. I'm going to let's share that. All right. So I'm going to share my screen here. We're going to look at your campaign. If I can, there we go. All right, we are screen 2, and there we go. All right. And this will be good for anybody, right? Some of the stuff we'll talk about here. So number one, we see you started a campaign, and this is important when you date it, right? You started at 1/6/22. So just a little over 2 weeks ago, right? Actually, exactly 2 weeks ago. You see your acceptance rate at 13%, your response rate at 3%. So those of you in our program know those numbers, right? I probably have some of you comment 25 and 7, right? We went 25 and 7.
Right.
And those of you not in our program, these are the metrics we kind of use inside of a program to gauge whether your campaign is at an acceptable level of response and engagement. Okay. If you hit those two numbers, it's usually a good sign. Yeah. Now you're 2 weeks in, you're not at those numbers. So you wrote me you're a little concerned about your numbers so far and your responses in the campaign. So let's talk about this for a moment. And I'm going to apologize. I had dental surgery yesterday, and so if I'm getting a drink or something, I'm a little bit swollen over here. So if you guys see me,
that's all dental surgery. Nothing more serious than that.
Just a couple teeth. So we tell people to wait 4 to 6 weeks. So here's the thing about our campaigns. First of all, LinkedIn is phenomenal. All right. But I always say LinkedIn's the good and the bad of the program because we have LinkedIn, we get access to it, we use it, and it's great for all the reasons we've discussed on many power hours and many of these teardowns. But the bad is we still have to operate within their rules. We can't accelerate our campaigns. We can't do more activity than they allow. There's a lot of things we still are a little restricted by. It's just playing within the rules. So not a big deal, but we have to play within the rules. And so part of those rules is you can only send out so many messages and activities a day. So there's a snowball that starts to happen. And it really takes 4 to 6 weeks to see the full cycle of that snowball. And so the fact that 2 weeks in, you're hitting 13 and 3, I've seen enough of these to say pretty confidently that by that 4 to 6 week period that we tell you, you'll hit 25 and 7. You're easily going to double these numbers in that time period.
That's comforting. Thank you.
Yeah, and part of that is responses. So let's touch on responses for a moment because I think this is the other thing that is the next concern. All right, I launched. I'm getting some responses, but I'm not getting great responses now. That's okay, and here is why. As you know, Michael, and we don't release our documents. We don't give our templates out inside our program. So you know the templates. You know the templates you're running off this. Our templates they build upon each other, right, with each message.
Yep. The
idea is a form of indoctrination, right? If I just said, "Hey, Michael, I'm the best in the world. You need to talk to me. Let's set up a time right now, or I'm not going to waste my time with you anymore." You're probably not going to want to work with me. It's a very arrogant way to approach my marketing, right?
Yeah.
But that's what we build upon each week. And we do this. We've tested hundreds and hundreds of different templates, right? And so we're just getting them introduced to you. I'm Michael. I'm good at what I do. Here's what I do. Here's who I do it for, right? And we're building on that. Love to have a chat with you. Oh, hey, you're busy. I'm popping this back up in your inbox, right? There's all these things that we kind of do with these strategies. And the reason is because it takes time to win somebody over. So I want to revisit some comments you made. Okay. You said you got an email that sparked your interest. And then what did you do with that email?
I let it sit.
You let it sit. All right. I love this. And here's why. I've been preaching this hard. So let me come back. I'm going to go full screen here. All right. So this, I'm gonna pick on some of our members because they've been hearing me say this for months now. Part of this, and I'm trying to get my screens here. How you said you would let it sit for about a month, right?
I think it was about a month, and I am sure it wasn't the first advisor's email that I let sit or let slide because again, I was skeptical.
Right, and we let this stuff happen in our own lives, right, all the time with people that we work with, right, or people that send us stuff. And so this illustrates a really great point. And this is number one. You guys know we're a marketing company. We market ourselves. We're gonna email you. We're gonna stay in contact. We're gonna give you value, right? So that's a big part of giving value and all the things that Jeremiah teaches and talks about. But I think that just to reiterate that's really what we want. If we have people responding right away, they're not really indoctrinated to what we do. They like the idea that we emailed them with, right? Like the workshops hit it for you just real quick. But you need more than that sometimes, right? And so with your prospects, it's the same thing. Michael's interesting. There's some value there. Maybe I'll talk with him. And they put it off to the side. That's why you need to keep coming at them because there's also a big factor of timing that plays into this when people are ready for it, right? So I love that you said that because that's something I've been preaching really hard lately. And there's ways to overcome that. In your marketing, we talk about those strategies. One is just to create some urgency.
Yeah.
Right. And so, there's different ways to do that. We'll hold off on that for a moment. But I like that story because it's exactly what we're talking about here. That's why it's okay that we have responses come later because those responses are usually more qualified, right? More indoctrinated in what we do. So they already know they're going to have the conversation. They're going to set up that call. All right. Yes, Ralph. We got Ralph, who's a previous guest of our teardown, saying patience and something he showed for 5 months while he struggled until that 6th month he crushed it, 50 appointments, right? Lorna, thanks. So we got great members here joining us. So I think just to kind of tie a bow around that, I think you're on the right track, and I think this is what we say about that commitment that we're talking about. It takes time for these campaigns to mature. It takes time to see how they shake out. So really got to have a little bit of patience there. But you're also getting feedback along the way, right? And so you're getting responses. You see what people are saying. You're able to see your stats, how things are going. You're going to start to have chats and how those 15-minute calls go. If they're getting on just wanting to network with you and there's no real agenda or real topic that they want to discuss, it means they're and this is a general blanket statement. You really need to see that, but it means they're out there trying to grow their business. They're trying to network as well. And if
I've noticed that I'm getting responses from people who are trying to market themselves, and that's fine. That's what it's for.
And that's feedback, though. It's very important because what that tells us is, all right, if we're really listening closely to even stuff that people aren't saying, we see that there's patterns, and we can start to figure out where in our campaigns, where in our profile can we improve. The holy grail here would be they get on the phone and they're talking with you about the exact thing that you want to talk to them about, right? And this takes time, but that's through your message, that's through the indoctrination, that's through your profile, all things we talked about before. But and let's let me try to bring you up here. Let's take a look to what you're doing here. We'll kind of look at this as a whole, whole picture here. So does that make you feel a little better about your results?
It does. Yeah. No, I want to say that I'm not fearful, but I'm impatient. So,
good. Good. That's okay. Because there's still plenty of things we can do during this time, right? You have, now the really cool thing, you know what? Let me see. I'm going to bring up, let's just kind of talk through it. I think so when you're sending out connections, right, what you're doing, and you've got all right, we can look at this right in here. Let's pull this up here. I think this will be a good thing. This was something I started to do early on that actually produced some results for me. All right, so let's get my screens right here. We're going to go into your campaign here, okay? And actually, we're going to go to leads in our system here. And so those of you watching, when you run a campaign, you can click on that and it'll show you all of your leads. So you've got 2,257 leads in that campaign. And you can see a combination of things. You can see the status, discovered, connected, not replied, connection pending, right? You can sort based on that. You can actually hit this drop down and see where they are in the steps. All right. But what we get here is we get a really good lead list, right? I got Mike Foltz, Senior Vice President. I got Carrie. So I can start to go through this and start to kind of cherry pick and mine it. Okay. So if you're impatient, I get it. But having the ability to start going through here. And if you see some things like maybe, I'm trying to see here, maybe Contender Esports, right? Maybe you know the local franchise. Maybe you were in there. Maybe whatever it is. You can pick up a phone now and say, hey, Tracy, I've been messaging on LinkedIn. Actually, I was in your store last week. Great store. And you're able to start having conversations that are a little warmer than just, cold conversations.
Right.
And this is something I started to do because I was impatient like you. And I'm like, all right, I gotta make some money here, right? I gotta make this thing work. And this really gave me a good opportunity. Instead of just buying a list or calling it or trying to warm it up, you have a list here that's being heated for you. And as you sort it, it's another really cool thing. So as you sort the status, let's go back here.
I'm taking notes, by the way.
Sure. And we're going to record this for perpetuity as well. So as you sort the status, my internet goes down on me here. Give me a moment. I don't know where that went. So you can sort the status by all the different steps that they're in. So discovered, right? Discovered, you really haven't messaged them. And you can see here. So here, Jonathan, you're at step 16. So that means you've got some messages out to them. You've got some stuff cooking there and going. And you can sort by the steps. And you can start there. People you have had more contact with. Hey, Jonathan, I messaged you a couple times. I just wanted to connect. I saw great value in connecting with you. I know I'm calling you out of the blue here, but if you have 15 minutes to chat, I'd love to schedule that, or we can do that now, right? And there's a couple different ways you can go about it, whatever your comfort level is. But that's one way to do it. So using the status or the steps and kind of understanding where they're at. And again, being able to drop down here and actually see what, like Jonathan, for example, we can scroll through all his 16 steps here and see what message he's on or what he's gotten already. All right. And it looks like he just connected with you. So that's another thing. Hey, Jonathan, I saw you just connected with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to chat with you. All right. So that's one way you can do it. Little tip there. All right.
Thanks. And I do have in this campaign, I started with a complex campaign. So I do have a messaging cycle going for when there's a connection.
Awesome.
So,
all right. And so for those of you watching here, I just want to reiterate. So advisor links are a system for our members, like Mike here. And when he says complex, so some of you guys know those are simple and are smart sequences. So you're running a smart sequence, which means you're hitting them a lot of different ways. So for example, with Jonathan, that example, you've touched him 16 different times already through in-mail messages, through email, through connection requests. There's a lot of activity going on in there that you can use. All right. So a couple questions. Let's pause here for a moment. Let's see. Savita, this is great during the coffee chat. How and when do you let them know what you do? All right. This is a great question. So Savita, I think I'm gonna back up because it's actually all the things we teach in Shift. That should all happen before you're on that 15-minute chat, right? So some of the stuff we're doing with Michael is where we're building out a profile that shows people why we're talking to them. All right, we're going to talk about his niche in a moment. We're building out messaging that tells them why we want to talk with them. We have a USP that tells them why they should talk to us, where the value is, an about section that reinforces that. So that's where I was talking about feedback. If we do that properly, 90+% of the people getting on those 15-minute chats are people that are coming to you to talk to you about the thing that you want to talk to them about, right? That's what we're doing, not the other way around. And so that's what we're kind of working through there. All right. And Ralph, and we're going to talk about that. So Ralph has a message, and Ralph Ralph knows better than any. He's struggled and fought his way through a lot of different things. So he said you got a huge campaign. Might make sense to split it up so you can modify your message if it isn't working. We're going to talk about that because you went a different route in your niche that we're going to actually go to right now. Well, better time than now, right? So that was one of your questions, right? One of your concerns that you'd asked. I'm going to read your question here. I'm very insecure about my subject matter niche. Listening to the call today, I'm struggling with anybody believing any of us would say I specialize in. Okay. So that's great. And I know a lot of people struggle with niche. That's one of the main problems we see, people not really having a clear definition of what their niche is, trying to kind of figure it out and everything. I want to go to, so those of you who joined our 5-day challenge and our shift members will recognize this. I'm going to share it here. Let me scroll down to the page I want. There's different types of niches. Okay. So we're going to kind of talk through this right now. Let me share my screen back here. All right. So there's 7, as we see it, there's 7 different types of niches that people can associate with. Okay. And now one of the big mistakes we see people make is they tend to just go. No, I shouldn't say mistake. That was the wrong word. One of the big, let me clarify that because actually it's the right word. But one of the mistakes we see is people just going after a specific title or role, right? Or an industry. I'm going after doctors. I'm going after lawyers. I'm going after nurses. I'm going after plumbers or electricians, whatever it may be. And that's fine. But a lot of times people come to me and say, I don't know what industry to go after, and they think that's the only option. And so I want to clarify that there's 7 different options. Okay, so let's look at these real quick for the sake of everyone watching here. The first is hobbies. So common activities, hobbies that you're interested in sharing with a group of individuals. Certainly could be hobbies, right? I know we've used the example of like yoga, right? There's a lot of groups out there for yoga enthusiasts on LinkedIn. It's a hobby. Hey, I see you're a fellow yoga enthusiast. Follow my, Y period, O period, G period, A period process, my yoga process to reach financial freedom, right? And I'm just throwing things out here, but you get the idea that you can build a whole niche around something you enjoy doing. All right. Subject matter, which we're going to talk about here, Mike, is certainly an area where it includes a product, pensions, topics, something that you could be an authority in. And I think that might be not a missing piece, but a piece that will help you feel like more of that subject matter expert when you start to position yourself as an authority. So I'm going to come back to that when we're talking about you, but I just want to finish up this here. Life stages, college, empty nesters, divorced, widowed, anything like that. It's another area. Connections. There's a certain connection to a group, whether it's you have a center of influence. So, for example, when I started in the industry, we had 2 brothers that loved golf. They were at a big manufacturing company, and they were just very social. So we just call them and say, hey, let's do a dinner with all your friends. Pick 10 friends, bring their wives and our husbands. We'll do a dinner, give us 10, 15 minutes to do a spiel at the end. Let's go play golf. And they would just bring people, and this is how we grew our practice. So that worked. Interaction, right? Virtual, how you're talking to people and their specific needs. Hearing impaired, my wife does sign language, and so that's a whole area. If you have a specific skill or unique ability there. Shared beliefs, political or religious, we've got a couple of people doing that well as well. And then title and industry, right? You can still go after the doctors and whatever, but the whole idea on picking a niche is something that you have experience in, that you bring value to, and that you understand. And so we laid that out here in this workbook, and a lot of you took part of the 5-day challenge. But this is how we kind of laid it out here. So let's come back to your question, Michael. And I'm doing a lot of talking, so I want to hear a little bit from you. So Veterans Vida, that's great. Yeah. All right. Now, anyone has questions or thoughts as we're going along, please throw in the chat. We love some interaction here. Any questions at all? So you mentioned you're doing YouTube as well on your own, right? You're starting YouTube. So what are those videos focused as?
I created what I call the retirement thinking channel, and it's just topics or news related commentary about what's going on, and just trying to provide some value. And I really didn't do it with the idea that I was going to, try to get out and have 100,000, viewers or whatever. I did it so that I could create content to send to people that I'd been talking to. If there was a discussion about Roth IRA or paying my mortgage off early or whatever, I could create a short video and give them something that they didn't have to necessarily be on the phone with me, and just provide extra value when it was convenient for them.
Okay. And I think, and so I'm gonna. This is where we're gonna go a little back and forth here. So I know you're up for this, but I'm just warning you. So
Yep, I'm good.
why did you pick? So your niche, you chose to be a subject matter, all right, and what you chose was taxes. So why did you choose that along the path here of choosing a niche?
So I chose. It was after a conversation with you that we talked. We were talking about niche, and my background was in insurance. So we focused on risk, but I just didn't feel like risk by itself was enough to get people off, because I don't know that they necessarily see that. But because of some personal interactions I've had with some other planners and some attorneys and some CPAs, I know there are tax strategies available to people that they're just not aware of. Big corporations use them, small companies just don't, and they can. And having had personal experience with that, I thought that would be a good way to go, because quite frankly, I think people are frustrated by taxes. I haven't talked to a business owner yet who's like, oh yeah, no, sure, taxes are great, right? It just never happens. So I just figured I would fixate on taxes to see if that resonates. I hope it does. I think it should, but I hope it does.
Absolutely. And I think, and this is where I was going with that. And then, so just in what I'm seeing though, you did in your YouTube, you're doing retirement, right? And so I think one of the things that will help you feel more confident, because this is a confidence issue more than a niche issue, in my opinion. Okay. Yeah. And because you said here, you're insecure about that, being a subject matter expert. I think, putting out material or videos or information that create value around taxes creates that authority that we're looking for. Okay. Because if you can point to something and say, like in these videos, and just creating it off your channel, point to these strategies that you're using. Hey, did you know this strategy? Do you know about this strategy? And be able to use some options like that and present yourself as that tax expert, not just on LinkedIn, but have that in other areas that you can call back to. And also, some of our bonuses inside of our members area, inside of the Shift program, you can get published in major media using some of these things around taxes. So, we've had this conversation, and I think you're on the right track. Taxes are a concern, especially for business owners. There's still the need to compel people to talk to you by adding that value that we're talking about. But I think for you and for anyone watching, building that authority is really important. Okay, being seen as that person is very important. And so whatever you can do to enhance that, excuse me, is also very important. Okay.
Yeah.
And another thing that's important, got a lot of important things here, is you being confident in that skill or ability. And I think that's the only thing you're missing right now, that confidence, and maybe just finding some ways to do that and to bring that about, because then in your featured section, you could feature videos that you do on taxes. All right.
Yeah.
And then some of that goes with your profile.
The majority of the videos that I did were prior to me joining Shift.
Yeah.
And I 100% agree with you. In fact, I realize I need to get a tax, and I've talked a little bit about taxes, but I just finished or almost finished with a script for my next video, which is awesome. 100% on taxes.
Awesome. And I think again, we preach niche. It doesn't mean that's all you do, that you're a one-trick pony from that perspective. That's the door opener, right? That's the area you go to. So, just using that, if you think a little bit broader, can you become the tax guy? Certainly. Can you do that without alienating other people that just aren't concerned about taxes? Certainly. Taxes affect everything, right? No matter what you're looking at. And so you can always just bring it back to that and just touch on it a little bit in every video. And you're the tax guy helping this and that. And it's all about that specific strategy or topic you're talking about. But just adding things like that are really helpful. And it doesn't hurt at all, right? And again, if that's the way, because the idea here, when I'm talking to you, if you're my prospect and I'm the tax guy, I approach everything from a tax perspective. Here's why. All right. But in that process, we're going to look at retirement. We're going to look at your life insurance. We're going to do all, right. It's still the whole thing. You're just coming at it a different angle. And this was something I learned the hard way. Okay. Like Ralph on here. It took me months and months and months to learn through doing this myself. Right. And I'm trying to work with business owners, and I'm looking for that door in. Once I found that door in, right, that opened up everything. I did everything. That doesn't limit us. It just gives us the opportunity that we're looking for. And that's all we're trying to do here. All right. Does that make sense to everyone watching? I hope that's helpful. That's actually really important to understand and know, because we're not limiting ourselves. We're just finding an opportunity to really go all in and really get deep on everything. All right. Savita, thank you. Great. Glad you're getting value from this. All right. And I think that goes to what you're talking about too. It doesn't have to necessarily be that you specialize in. It could be like that's the way you approach your process because it's so vital to everything. Instead of, I mean, a simple example is, hey, when you retire, your dollar that you take out is not a dollar; it's 75 cents, 70 cents, depending upon your tax bracket. Like we gotta account for that.
It's not all yours.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So, Mike, I know we're going over a lot of this stuff here. Those are two of them. Any questions or concerns about any of those two topics or anything as we're kind of humming along here?
No, this is great. I'm loving it. Let's keep going.
And I think
this is going for 2 hours, right?
I don't know if I can go that long. I think I lost the stitch already. No. But I want to go back to your commitment, right? And this is something I think, those are the successful members of our program. People that commit to doing something like this and actually commit to the process. And I think, part of that takes a little time, certainly, but the coaching, right? I mean, in our program, there's plenty of coaching, and you share with me, you got a lot of that. You took advantage of it. You were in our group coaching sessions. You were in our Mighty Network, our community for everybody. And that's what it's all about, is us helping you along the way. So I'm just wondering how that's helped you. And obviously we're doing that right now to an extent, but how we can continue to help you there as well.
Yeah. So the coaching has been great. And when I spoke with Huguette at the very beginning, I said, look, I'm going to squeeze these coaches hard. And she said, yeah, you press them. And I have. I mean, I've pounded on Christian with emails and messages, and I've sent a lot of things to Sky. And they've been really helpful to clarify and help me round it out. They're not doing the work for me. They're just helping me get it into my voice and move things forward. It's very much a side-by-side thing. Yeah. One of the things that Sky told me early on, the phrase that he uses was iterate to great. And I love that, because there's always tweak. There's always something you can do to polish it and make it better. And both Sky and Christian have been fantastic about that in the respective areas. It's been very helpful.
Awesome. Yeah, so I appreciate that. I want to make sure everyone knows, like, kind of that's really what this is all about, right? That kind of, like you said, side by side approach to what we do here. So anyone that does want to learn more about that, please head over to Meet with Advisors. You can talk to Huguette as well, like Michael did, and we'd love to chat with you there. So cool. Savita, yeah, exit strategy, exit planning is a big thing. So certainly can be. The thing I always caution people against, make sure it's something you're passionate about. Right? Because you want to talk about it. You want to talk about it. And you need to be knowledgeable and confident in the area. So make sure it's something you're passionate about and something you have knowledge around. That's really how you're going to be able to get the referrals and get in there and have good conversations to start out with. I see it, another big mistake, just to kind of warn everyone watching it, that we see is people will pick a niche based on how much money they think they can make with it. Right? And those two things never work, because just because a niche can be, valuable monetarily, doesn't mean you're going to realize those benefits because you don't understand it enough or know it. And people realize that. They understand that.
Well, that kind of, Chris, if I can ask, that is one of the concerns I have about this, is with a subject matter niche, who do you target your search on? I did pick a search, and I picked things, and I don't know if that was the best place to send this campaign. So
thank you. Yeah, that's a great question, because that goes back to a comment Ralph made. I want to touch on that. The value of LinkedIn here, when you're a subject matter expert, is you can still do searches based on a title, an industry, a role. You can still do those searches. Hey, Mr. Doctor. Hey, Mr. Business Owner. Hey, Mr. or Mrs. whatever, right? It allows you to kind of create these sub niche campaigns where you can create campaign messaging for those niches, or it's just those sub niches, right? Inside of that you're targeting. Hey, this profession, you have this specific tax issue. I love to help you with that. And it doesn't, the one thing I always caution against is like red flags, right? Like when someone sees that and they go back to your profile and you're talking about something else, and there's disjointed messages and things that you do, you want to keep everything very consistent. And what this does is I'm going after someone with a specific title or role, but I'm talking about taxes. I'm talking about their issue with taxes. When they come back to my page, I'm the tax guy. They're reading through my profile. It's about taxes. So they know I can help them still. So there's no red flag that really pops up there. That's the way I would attack it. And I think to Ralph's point, because he's been on all our coaching calls as well, I think that's where he was going with that, is if you break down that list of 2,200 into a specific doctor, I think that was doctors, but a specific business owner, a specific role or title, you can craft a more customized message that, again, the reason we preach niche in these areas is because we want that message to penetrate all the noise. So the more broad we are, the more chance we have of our message getting lost in everything that's going on. The more chance we have of sitting in someone's, inbox for a month, right? Before they remember about us. And so the more specific our message, the more timely our message, and the more urgency we create in it, that gets us the results. Those are the keys there.
And I was kind of fixated on the 2,500 maximum. So I'm thinking go to the max.
Right. And I mean, and this is again the feedback we get, right? You got the campaign going, so you don't have to necessarily I wouldn't jump ship on it yet. I would formulate your next plan, and then what we're talking about here, and if you choose to go that route, right, and then do it. But there's some ways, like for me in the beginning, I had to be much more targeted, right? But as I went on, I was able to refine my USP to the point where it was powerful enough I could get people to talk with me. And I was able to go broader. I was able to be a lot more picky about who I talked with. So it's almost like this contracting at first to really hone your message in. And once you do, then you can kind of broaden it back out and get it out there, because you really need to figure out what's working first. That's what I talk about. You got to listen to the responses you're getting. Every response is feedback. Every conversation is feedback. No response is feedback, right? It's all feedback that's happening, and you're just kind of seeing, all right, what's resonating, what's not, what am I missing on? And it's just, Jeremiah and Scott, like that's kind of advisorist motto, iterate to great, just getting better and just keep, get it out there and just improve it, which is what we want to do.
Right. And I don't want to fall in love with anything that I've done to this point. If it's not working, it can go. It's
And I'll say, you don't usually it's just little tweaks here and there. It could be just little things. And that's why we'll keep watching it. I have all confidence your campaign's performing. 2 weeks in, it's performing. Okay. So that's what I'm saying. It's little things like that. If you were 8 weeks in and those are your numbers, we'd have a different conversation, but it's doing very well.
Okay. All right.
And we got the chairman of the board giving his stamp of approval. So, all right. Last question here, and this is another great one here. Seems that once I have the USP and about narrative done, the most important thing is choosing the niche search criteria. With a subject matter niche, what makes defining the search very challenging. So this is that next piece we're talking about, right? Did we answer your question in the previous discussion here? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good. And just for everyone watching and listening, what Mike's asking here is, all right, well, let's show you. Okay, let's do this, right? This is a teardown. We do this live right here. Mike, can you send me your LinkedIn profile link? I'm having trouble.
Yeah, give me a second here.
I like to show everyone that kind of what we're talking about. All right, so
let's see.
I'm going to show you guys Sales Navigator here, okay? We've seen this before. And
there are a few of us out there, so.
Yeah. Awesome. Got it. Thank you. All right, so let me share my screen. All right, so here's Sales Navigator in our searches, right? And what you can usually just come here and just, if I'm going after doctors, I can just say doctor, right? Medical doctor. You can also exclude things, right? But you see here, we got doctor. It's pulling up all the doctors we have in our world, right? And so what Mike did is he was being a tax going after it. So if I was niching in doctors, it's very easy for me to come in here and do a search. With Mike, he's going after, he's subject matter expert in taxes. So he's asking, how do you define this criteria, right? And so part of my, the answer to the last question and part of this one here now is that you actually can still do the same thing. You can target people based on criteria. You can target them based on the company they work for, okay? A past company. We have a member that, retired from a local energy company. He's going after all those people. And so he's going after the past company. And so it could be anyone that's worked for those companies and left, or however you choose to go about it. Function, seniority level, years. I mean, there's a lot of different things here. Geography, certainly important. A school, a college they went to. Now, so Mike, you can say, all right, I went to UNC. I'm going to go after all UNC graduates here for taxes. And hey, Mr. and Mrs. fellow UNC graduate, I graduated in whatever the year was, right? And you can create a custom message.
Yeah.
So this is where you really can start to dive in on, and here you're going to use things that are specific to you, your college, your hobbies, other things that you can use. You can use a lot of these niches under a subject matter expert and create these sub campaigns that are going after people for your expertise in taxes. So that's what we're talking about here. You can now start to build these lists out. Now, for those of you who aren't Shift members, Mike used the number 2,500. Our advisor link system will find up to 500 people at a time. Doesn't mean you have to use all those people. I saw Ralph using 500 at a time to really drill down. When we drill down, it gives us the opportunity, again, to create a more crafted like message, customized message. So you're not shooting with a shotgun. It's a sniper shot. I'm coming right at you. You know who I am. You know what I do. You know I can help you because you're my ideal prospect. And that's what we're looking to do there. Awesome. All right. I'm going to pull up. Let's see. We got you right here. Maybe.
It's a younger version of me when you get there.
That's all right. No facial hair. I'll do it too. All right. So I thought it'd be good to show everyone this here. So you look, you're going after business owners right now. So we'll talk about this here, right?
Okay.
Blueprint design review, retirement analyze software, less frustration and more control. So, here, are you frustrated with high taxes? So right away, there's a little bit of a disconnect, right? You're business owners, then you're on taxes. It doesn't talk anything about that here. So again, we have to see. It doesn't always mean anything. Remember, we preach this. The banner image here is like I'm going down the highway 80 miles an hour. I see it on the side of the road. It grabs my attention, right? And then does it get my attention enough to keep scrolling down? That's what we want. So something to watch out for. I like, here you got your blueprint design review process. Naming your process, something Jeremiah teaches all the time. That's a great thing to do. Have it because it creates a process that's unique to you. It's not something you can Google or find, and you're not giving them a reason here to say, "Oh, I'm not interested." Right? That's the main thing here. We wanted something a little bit different and unique. All right. I love questions. Because I love questions that you can predict the outcome of the answer. All right. Because if you ask the question, "Are you frustrated by taxes and risk?" Of course, who's not going to be frustrated by that? Almost everyone is. And so you're already starting to get them in their heads, like they're shaking their head, yes, right? That's what we want. We're sitting across the table from. Same thing. The thing that you're doing when you're sitting across the table from people that's working is the same thing you should be doing in your marketing effort. Same thing you should be doing in your messaging. It's you, it's working, it's authentic. All right. Talking about taxes right away, which is great. That's what we want. Lots of tax messaging here. And then your contact information. So all this is great. All right. I am a little concerned there's going to be a disconnect between this and that could be as simple as just adding something tax related in here. But that's the only thing I really see right out of the bat here. Now, a couple of nitpicky things here just for our listeners as well. I can tell you don't have a company page because if you had a company page, right?
I do not.
You could have your logo here if you had a company page. So if you associate your experience with the company page, it'll pull the logo in just like you see here with State Farm. We got a couple of you previous State Farm owners in here. And that just adds a little more professionalism with that logo there. They see it a couple times and everything. So that's good. And then only other thing here is down here in the contact. I would just space this out a little bit. You can actually use like a phone emoji or an email emoji to get your information down here. And with these links, they're not hyperlinks. So even just adding a vanity URL we talked about, just buying something like meetwithmike.com or something that you can use there in place of a longer. It's like $12 a year for the URL. You just do what's called domain forwarding. You buy it on GoDaddy, you say how to forward my domain. You just basically copy and paste the domain, and it's really, really simple. So just a couple little tips for everyone out there watching, but hopefully that was helpful. So Mike, we've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
So this is recorded. You definitely get this. So let me catch up. I'll make sure we don't miss any comments. Okay, Terry's asking for. Oh, all right. Thank you. So I think Jazz already took care of that, Terry. Thank you, Jazz. Kenai, absolutely. All right, cool. Tim, good to see you. Great. I think we're all caught up here. So, again, everybody, just if you guys can give some love to Mike, he took time out, let me pick on him a little bit, and you really set us up with some great questions. I think, these are questions we get a lot, so it's good to kind of get that out there. A lot of concerns that people have, just not understanding fully. There's so much to understand and know, right? That's the point of the coaching, to kind of help you along. So hopefully this helps a lot of people. But give Mike some love. We'd love to see you in the program. If you guys are interested at all, meetwithadvisors.com. So please check that out. Just go on there and just check out all the testimonials and everything. That's where Mike was able to find some of our past members. Jack, thank you, sir. So Mike, any last questions, concerns, any other thing you want to talk about? I know you're looking forward to this. I want to make sure we give you value and you get what you wanted out of this as well.
Yeah, I do have one last question that I wrote down last night. At what point, and I know you've told me that things are going according to plan, but at what point do we say, this campaign's not working, I should cut this one and get to the next one? Different search, different language, whatever. At what point do we say this has got to change?
I'm going to answer that two ways. Number one, I would say you do want to do that just because we want to get more specific in our search criteria in the link we're sending, so we can have more customized message. I think you're just going to have better results. Even if you're hitting 25 and 7, which I have no doubt you will hit, 40 and 20 is not a bad place to be either, right? And we have members doing that. Right. So, 25 and 7 is kind of our minimum. We want to get you over that. And I think once you go with a more customized message based on the search, so I would look to do that no matter what. I wouldn't cut bait on this yet. This one's going to be successful. I think from as far as troubleshooting, so all of you guys watching, right? Anyone that's running campaigns, 4 to 6 weeks at a minimum, we want to run the campaign. 25 and 7, you need to see. If you hit 25 and 7 and you're not getting a solid 10 leads out of that, there's a disconnect. That's where it's not that you have to cut bait on the campaign, but there's some disconnect, and it could be in your messaging, it could be in your profile. And so, I pointed out, the banner can matter. It can matter. Yeah. The kind of the cycle that a prospect goes through on LinkedIn, the first introduction to you is going to be usually the connection request, which is going to have your name and part of your USP. And so when they see that, if they connected with you, they see value already, right? Next is going to be the message you send them. When you're sending them a message, they're going to decide, oh, this is interesting or it's not interesting. If it's interesting, 9 times out of 10, they're going to go back to your profile and they're going to read your profile and see if it's really worth their time. And after going through that, so that's the thing. If we're not getting good responses, they're not seeing the value. And so we just need to adjust the profile. Okay. I think you're gonna hit 25 and 7. I can almost guarantee it at this point. Your numbers look great, so early on in the campaign. And really it takes to about the second week to really start to see things pop again in LinkedIn. People kind of take some time off. It's just the way it works with LinkedIn in the new year.
And we're still in the warm-up phase too. I know.
And you're just starting out. So there's different things. So I'm confident in that. So all it's going to be is just tweaking from here. It's not going to be changing. Once you have a good campaign that works, now it's just creating something that compels them, gives them urgency to actually talk with you. And that's it. So I know that was long-winded. I did that kind of for everybody. So for you specifically, I would just look to make more specific campaigns. Number one, that's just going to help you. Let this one run still. It's going to be good. What we want to watch for next, are we getting the right responses in that 6 to 8 weeks? We should be seeing 10 leads a month at least. And that's what we're looking for. If we're not hitting that, there's something off, and we just got to readjust. And you just let us know, and we'll help you.
All right. I really appreciate this, Chris. Thank you for your attention, and for the whole coaching team and everybody. It's been very good for me, and I have a lot of hope in this.
Yeah, and we love it. We like I said, we were talking before. People that come in dedicated, ready to go, we want to help. We're going to make you guys successful, and that's really what we want people that want to do it. So, thank you for sure. Without people like you, we don't have this program. I don't have this opportunity, this platform. So thank you. Just kind of go through here. You get thank you. You get's awesome. If you want to talk with her again, meetwithadvisors.com. Lorna, thank you. Mr. Francois. Profile picture is pretty important.
Yeah.
It's something
that's coming.
Yeah. And being younger is okay too, but yeah, it is important just, to look the part, right? You don't want to be in a t-shirt. I remember we had one guy come in, I think he had a drink in his hand at some nightclub, this bright red background behind him. I don't know if that's really what we're going for here. So it does matter. It's not going to make or break you if it's a professional picture. You want kind of almost like this, like 3/4 of the picture to be, shoulders and above. But yeah, it is important. Sabita, thank you. Thank you for your comments. Charles, good to see you, my friend. And Terry, absolutely. Cool. I think we're all caught up. So anyone who is interested, please meetwithadvisorist.com. Mike, thank you so much. Appreciate it. We'll be seeing you again in coaching and everything, I'm sure. So I will talk with you soon, my friend.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.